My name is Sara Hay. I am with Bob Clements International, and I'm here with my good friend Johnathan Aguero, who is with Blackpurl. And today we're going to spend some time talking through what are 5 off-season moves that you can make now to set up for a profitable spring. And Johnathan, I know that as we've been having the conversation around this, we both feel like this is a really important piece of the puzzle, right?
Absolutely. It's a different year and we're going into a different kind of spring. If we can set up right, then hopefully we can, harvest in spring what we reap now.
Absolutely.
Or what we sow now, man.
Right.
Planting the seeds, and these are the 5 seeds, right?
These are it. These are it. So I want to go through a few quick pieces of housekeeping before we kick off here. But as we go through this, we have a few hundred of our closest friends with us today, Johnathan. So we have a lot, I'm sure, of questions that will pop through, and we have a lot of different things that we're going to cover today. So if you have questions, what we would ask is that you put those in the chat or in the question box, and we have some time at the end set aside to answer your burning questions. Now, we may not get through all of them, but we will make sure that they get to the right person, whether it's Johnathan or myself, and we will get back to you because we appreciate you taking the time and we want to answer all of the questions we possibly can. Number 2, if we, for any reason, lose connection and we have an issue with this webinar, all you need to do is go back to the Zoom link in your email, re-click on that and come back in. Johnathan, I used to say, oh, we've never had problems. I don't even know why I say that, but I did one time. The power went out and it was a problem. So fingers crossed, we've got 762 backups here, Johnathan, to try to make sure that all works, but you never know. So if you get disconnected, just go back to the Zoom link, click on that, and we will get going again. All right, and then finally, I want to encourage you to go get a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil. Okay, you are going to need this today. If you just came because you thought Johnathan and I were going to be a good comedy act, number 1, I respect that. I do respect that. But number 2, we're going to dive deep into some of these topics today, and I want you to get a pen, a paper, and be ready to take some notes because you need to think about these from how this affects your dealership and what you're doing specifically. So with that, Johnathan, I say let's get started. I don't know. If they're here for the clown convention, they're in the wrong place. But if they're here to grow their dealerships, let's go.
Yeah,
all right.
Let's hope that proves true.
All right, I love it. All right, Johnathan, so I want to just give everyone a quick recap of who Bob Clements International is and what we do, and then I want you to do the same with Blackpurl. But Bob Clements International, we are a dealership training organization, so we help you make money in parts and service. My mom and dad started the company back 45 years ago when God was a small child, and over the last 45 years, our space has been asking the question, how do we implement processes and make dealers make obscene amounts of money in parts and service? And so that's still our bread and butter today. That's what we do. We work with hundreds, if not thousands of dealerships, helping you improve your processes so that your parts and service departments are just singing, and they're throwing off cash in the meantime. Number 2, we train your people. We have lots of different training options for your people, whether it's virtual, in person, lots of different things that we do to help train your people, from service manager certification, marketing masterclass, field sales team training if you're a manufacturer, everything in between, all about how do you create profitable, strong, and healthy dealerships. And then third, we do your marketing so you don't have to. In the last year and a half or so, we started a pilot program where we walk alongside dealerships to market your full dealership. So parts, service, sales, we speak dealer, we speak your language. And so we have found that to be wildly helpful and been an incredible opportunity to walk along some of you in the midst of that. All right, Johnathan, that's the 30,000 foot view of what we do. Tell us about Blackpurl and what your company does.
Absolutely. Blackpurl, we call it the next gen dealership management software that drives dealer growth. That's what we stand for. It's a dealership management software called a DMS, and it is mobile friendly, simple to learn, but very powerful. So it's used by golf cart dealerships, agricultural equipment, power sports, trailer. And what really, again, sets it apart is easy to adopt, easy to get, great processes, the kind that Sara and her team educate dealers on. It's easy to implement those processes with Blackpurl. You can obviously learn more if you want to check out the software at blackpurl.com.
Awesome. All right, Johnathan. Well, one of the things I'm most excited about our conversation today is that, like, as we go through this, we are both bringing two very different perspectives to the table. And I think that as we have these conversations, I would encourage you as dealers and manufacturers and distributors to just lean in and ask the questions that are on the top of your head and your top of your mind. So, Johnathan, the first thing that I think we have to address is this, is like, really, Johnathan, Sara, it's October. Is it October? It's October. September. It's almost. I don't know what it is. Okay, I don't know. It's just after season for some of you, and some of you still in season, and some of you are like, Sara, we don't even have a season. We're busy all the time. God bless them, you. Okay, like, that's fantastic. But when we look at this, the question is, do I really need to start thinking about next year? Like, I just got through it. I was just in battle, Johnathan. Is this something I need to start thinking about right now? And the answer is a resounding what, Johnathan?
It's an absolute yes. It's a must.
Absolute yes. It's exactly it. Because when we look at how we make next year successful, we know that success for next year starts right now. It starts right now, because oftentimes what we see is that you go through the battle. You go through it. You sat there and you dealt with all of the service problems, all of the parts inventory issues, sales going up and down, and it was like a yo-yo situation for some of you this last year. And you go, oh my gosh, I'm just tired. Do I really need to start thinking about it? And my cash flow is looking pretty good as I'm sitting right now. Do I really need to think about it? Yes. Because in a few months, when things slow down, depending on what industries you're in, it's going to look very different. And so what you choose to do right now, Johnathan, is going to be an incredible piece of the picture. So what are your other thoughts about getting prepared for this next year?
Man, you know, something comes to mind. Back maybe 20 years ago, someone told me, don't doubt in the light. Don't doubt in the dark what you saw in the light, right? Great piece of life advice about relationships and business. And I'd say that light of the start of spring, when you're saying, hey, the pump, it's not pumping yet. I got to get it pumping. You get that panic feeling. Maybe some of you have experienced that. Well, I say, don't doubt now what you're going to see in the light, and put these 5 items into your queue. Get them done.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, with that, let's get into the 5 items, Johnathan. The first department we are going to talk about today is our parts department. Now, I want to know, just in the chat for me, how many of you work in the chat department? I had to. How many of you work in the parts department inside of your dealership? Just say like, yeah, yo, me. Gang's all here. I don't care what you say, but I want to know how many of you are in the parts department and working in the parts department. Now, if you're an owner, you're like, hey, I'm doing this. We have to, I'm an owner. I do everything. Like, I hear you too. All right. Scott's like, hey, I'm here. Mike's in the parts department. Mark. Oh my gosh. Such a good group of people in the parts department. So when we look at parts, we are going to start here for a number of reasons. Number one, Johnathan, when we look at the parts department, we view the parts department as the lifeblood that flows through the dealership. There is nothing that is not affected by the parts department inside of a dealership. In the complexity of the number of SKUs you have, the customers that are walking in, and all of these other dynamics, the pricing dynamics you have to have is more complicated than any other department in the dealership. I said what I said, okay? I said what I said. I think it's more complicated than any other dealership in the dealership. Department in the dealership. And I'm probably hearing a big old amen from all my parts people. But when we look at what you can do in order to set yourself up for success, Johnathan, it all comes back to inventory and making sure that our inventory is accurate. So why don't you take a minute and walk us through what happens when we have inaccurate inventory?
Oh man, there's a big price to pay, Sara. Yeah. There's really 4 key ways that business punishes you. Number 1, you leave yourself open to theft. If you don't consistently keep track of how many parts you're supposed to have, some tend to walk off It happens too often. Everyone thinks it can't happen to me. But Sara, you were telling me the other day how many people you watched it happen to.
Oh my gosh. Johnathan, and this is something we see all of the time. And if you are an owner or a parts manager on here, one of the things that I want you to do, and the fastest way to catch theft inside of the parts department, is to pull what we call an exception report from your business management software. So whether that's Blackpurl or a different one that you're using, they should all have the ability to pull a report called the exception report. And this is going to show you line by line every single exception that was made on pricing, on anything inside of the parts department. And Johnathan, all the time, we see this regularly where we have dealers call us and they say, you're not going to believe what happened at the parts department. We go, let me guess. You probably lost hundreds of thousands of dollars of parts. And they're like, how did you know? And the thing about the parts is you've already paid for them. They're the cash in your pocket. So you're right. We see this all the time.
Well, and it's not just lost parts, Sara, but also lost sales, where you pay the price too. Imagine if a customer comes in. What's the big reason why a customer does business with you today in the age of the internet and Amazon? Convenience, relationships, expertise. Well, if they come in and you don't have the part they need once, do they never come to you again? They probably come back. But what if they keep coming to in-person dealerships and they don't see the parts that they need? They have to wait, and they could get it faster and cheaper online. Well, you've lost that customer. Yeah. So we're seeing a lot of what you would call lost time, quiet quitters. You may have heard that phrase. It's a popular phrase. It's customers who they started out doing business with us, but it got so inconvenient that they just sort of drift away, and maybe they'll still come in, but they now go online. And how do we prevent these lost sales and these quiet quitters? It's by knowing what we have. And then further, a little beyond this point, is we've got to tailor what we have with our mins and maxes. If we have demand forecasting software available, whatever the case is, we need to make sure we have what customers need and want in stock, so we have fewer lost sales and greater brand relationships. Obviously, a lot more profitability there. Sara, how does that resonate with what you coach dealers on?
Yeah, I think that's all tied in there together. And I'm curious, from the chat, when you think about your parts department, what are you seeing as the cost of inaccurate inventory for you? All right. Is it theft? Is it lost sales? Is it the lost time? Or even your working capital being tied up, Johnathan? I think that's the other piece of it.
Oh, it is. While we wait for people to respond, the fourth item that I'd want to talk about is your working capital. We talked about how you can lose a bunch of it, the money in your pocket, as you said. Well, what if it's tied up sitting there being wasted? Yeah. You've invested your real money into this inventory that's got to sell. And if you weren't analyzing it, if it's not accurate, you don't know what percentage of your inventory is aged and even obsolete, then absolutely you're not going to be able to take that money. Say you have $200,000 sitting in inventory that's not moving. You can't take that money and respond to the newest industry trends. You might not be able to put that towards that add-on that's going to allow you to do more business. You want your money working for you, so you've got to keep your parts accurate. So the money in parts is working for you.
Yeah, we always say we want to have a wide but shallow parts inventory, meaning we have all of the SKUs out there that we need, maybe not all of them, about between 90 to 95%, but we only have a few of them because we can get them so quickly. But it comes back to inventory management and saying, how are we doing our inventory? And when we're working with dealers, the thing we're always talking about, Johnathan, is that we want our dealers to move to what we call cyclical inventory counts. Now, everybody say it with me. Cyclical inventory. No, you don't actually have to say it. Other people may be looking at you in the dealership and be like, who is this weirdo and why are they yelling cyclical inventory counts? Okay, don't be that person. But when we talk about cyclical inventory counts, you may be like, Sara, that sounds like you are speaking a different language, and maybe it does. But let me explain it to you in true fashion that probably a 12-year-old could even understand. So when we talk about cyclical inventory counts, all I am saying is that the best way to do inventory is to do a little tiny bit of inventory every single day. And depending on what you're using for your business management software, you should have the ability to pull a cyclical inventory count where it says, hey, I need you to look at these 10 parts, these 15 parts every single day. And then by the end of the year, you have done your inventory on the entire parts department, and your fastest movers have been inventoried more than once, because we know that those fast movers is where we normally get off, and it becomes that challenge for us. So we want to lean to this. What typically happens though, Johnathan, is that once a year, it happens every year, we all take a deep breath and we go, it is about to be the worst week of the entire year in the parts department. We are doing inventory. In the sense of dread comes over you, like you're like, oh my God, I would rather get a root canal than have to sit here and do my inventory. But when we break it up and do just a little bit of inventory at a time versus this massive amount, it becomes a much better situation. We have one dealer we've been working with. I was doing a bunch of parts manager training, and I had this lady on there. She was second generation. They had 3 dealerships around in Missouri, and as they added another location, they did their parts inventory for the first time in 3 years. Yeah, what could go wrong with that? 3 locations, first time in 3 years they were moving. And this daughter who was working through this, Johnathan, she found that over the course since they did their inventory last, they had over $350,000 of missing parts from their inventory. Listen, Pops wasn't happy. He wasn't happy. He was like, oh my God, what happened? Where did these parts go? Because he had already paid for those. Like, those were already money out of his pocket. And so as we walked through it, we said we need to move towards cyclical inventory counts. And they did. And they got it back under control. But it was a big move through that. So here's what I want you to do. In the chat, tell me, are you guys doing annual inventory or are you doing cyclical inventory right now? Johnathan, as we move to this next piece, it's all about the service department and understanding what's going on in the service department. But it looks like we've got some people who are doing cyclical, annual, starting cycle counts. Oh my gosh, I love this, annual. And if you are looking at this and you say, hey, I don't know how to move to cyclical inventory counts, talk to us or reach out to your business management software, your DMS provider, and ask how they can help you get that started pulling that. So, all right, let's talk about service, Johnathan. So if the parts department is the blood that flows through the dealership, the service department in our world is the backbone. If you've ever had your back out of place, you know how much pain it can cause you when the back is out of place. Like, you have an inability to do anything. And so when we look at the service department, especially as we're going through the off season, Johnathan, it's so important for us to look at what that looks like and how we can keep it busy. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, service is absolutely critical, Sarah. And exactly as you said, this is the time to be thinking about setting ourselves up for success over the next number of months. You've mentioned earlier that we're looking for an interesting spring with trade-ins and used vehicles. And in the intervening time, whenever you have a little bit of a comeback for the market, there's a lot of economic indicators to suggest some positive metrics for the spring. You're looking to sell more new, but in the meantime, we've got to be extra focused on the used. We'll talk about this in the sales segment as well. We've got to be extra focused on service to harvest all the fruit that's in front of us. One of the critical things, as we talk about what says on the screen, off-season service specials, one of the critical things that I would love for everyone to consider is not just the content of our offers, but the way we have phrased them. Here's sort of a key thing. We'll get into this more in marketing, but just remember, when you're talking about service specials, it's got to be something unique. It's got to stand out, right? That goes without saying. But the elements, it's got to provoke curiosity or novelty in some way. So 10% off, something they've seen a million times. The brain uses what the experts, I'm not a brain expert, they call heuristics, little patterns. When I was growing up, we'd get telemarketers all the time. And my last name's Aguero. It's a Costa Rican last name. So when people would call up and they'd ask for an Aguilera, I immediately knew this is a telemarketer. And I didn't have to think it through. I didn't have to think through, well, is this someone I really want to talk to? I would just react and hang up, right? Not interested, thank you, hang up. That's what our customers' brains do when we message them in a way that looks just like everyone else. or a way they're used to us doing. So the number one thing we want to think about going into the spring is how can we get people engaged in a way where the messaging stands out in their brain?
Yeah.
What do you think about? I mean, hearing that, Sarah, I know that goes right in line with what your marketing team does.
Well, it is. And I think when we look at off-season service specials, I think it's important to address the fact that your service department should have the goal of being busy and you able to keep your techs busy 11 months out of the year. You're like, why 11 months, Sarah? Why not 12? Because we have to account for PTO, we have to account for training, we have all of these other things, but your tech should be busy 11 months out of the year turning wrenches. No, because it's off season, Johnathan, does not mean we send them over to grandma's house to fix the banister. No, like we don't do that. But I see that time and time again. They're like, well, I'm already paying them, like might as well just have them do that. No, we need to have the service department full. I'm curious, so in the chat, let me know, do you do an off-season service special for your dealership? Because when we look at off-season service specials, this is the magic wand, the button that we can push to help create movement. Now, what I typically hear though, Johnathan, is people going, I've tried that before, Sarah. I tried it before and it didn't work. It just cost me a lot of money and I just didn't really have any good success. Well, when we think about anything we do, we have to understand a few things. The first thing is this. It takes 3 years, what we see, 3 years for any program in a dealership to truly get off of the ground. So we do it year one and we're like, it doesn't really work for me. I haven't got a lot of movement. Okay, year number two, like, okay, I'm seeing some, but it seems like a lot of work. That's where people typically quit, is year two. They go, it seems like a lot of work, but I'm just not gonna keep pushing. But year three is where the magic happens because all of the people continue to compound and we move through that. So we have to look at this in a few different ways. When we dive into what it looks like to have off-season service specials, we have to look at it in terms of what are we offering? So our program, right? How do we tell people about it? And then what other outreach tools do we have? So Johnathan, I'm gonna talk about how I've seen programs set up and I'll let you talk about it really quickly too. But what I'm seeing with our dealers when we do off-season service specials for them, the things that are really working are this. Number one, we do 3 tiers, okay? So we have our early adopters, the people who wait a little bit longer, and then the people who are like, listen, I'm a last minute procrastinator. So when the first people who respond, they get the best deal. Now for most of our dealers, it's something to the tune of about 10% off of service and then a 5% discount on parts, but we don't ever say 10% and 5% like Johnathan said. We always talk about things in dollars because that's how people's brains process. 10% means nothing to people, but $200 does. So we always talk about it in dollars. Then we typically, depending on the product, offer free pickup and delivery. But again, we never say free. We love to see Phase 1 have $1 pickup and delivery if you're gonna do free. Why? Because it catches people's attention. Phase 2, we normally do like a $19 pickup and delivery. Again, it's just a little bit off so it catches people's attention. And then the third phase is more in line of what you normally would charge for pickup and delivery. But again, we try to make sure it's a little bit off just so it catches people's attention. So when we set up programs, the entire idea is that we are doing basic maintenance on units. This is not for us doing complex repairs. That's a different story for a different day. We're just wanting people to bring in their units for basic maintenance. So Johnathan, then what are you seeing when it comes to the marketing support of this?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, Sarah, there's 3 key elements, and I really dove into one of them a moment ago. Your offer's got to stand out, and that's your task, is to figure out for basic maintenance, not fancy jobs, how do you make it stand out? The way it's worded, the way it's couched, and or the package you put together. The next thing is value has to be immediately perceived. This is one of the things Sarah was just talking about. If the customer's brain, again, we got to think these people's brains are automatically working as a receptionist for their attention, trying to prevent them from wasting their attention. So how do we get immediately to value? Studies suggest that the brain processes more quickly concrete offers rather than abstract ones. And what I mean by concrete is the brain automatically pictures a $50 bill, that's concrete. If you tell me, hey, this service is $328, you're gonna get 7% off, that's lost in math land, right? The brain doesn't natively process percentages of complex numbers. So the thing is, if you can take 10% off something, convert it to a meaningful number, that $50, it's concrete, is going to feel bigger to their brain. And I'll never forget one day, I've been in the non-automotive space for many years now, but back in the day, I used to work with Audi dealerships long time ago. And I'll never forget, I was in a dealership in New Mexico and a surgeon came in with his second Audi. He has an R8, the big fancy supercar, and then he had the other one. And he said, he saw what we had in our hands. There were these little service specials, $50 off your next oil change. And he had kept that. This guy who probably doesn't answer his own phone had kept that $50 credit.
Yeah.
So make it concrete. The second and the third thing here. So again, standing out, value immediately perceived. Number 3, this is the one to challenge you on it. The more real, the better.
Yeah.
And by more real, I mean, if your staff knows this is a real special, they're going to talk about it so differently than if they think it's just truly a gimmick or something. So it's got to stand out. It's got to have immediate value perceived by your audience, and it's got to feel real to everyone involved. Yeah. What do you guys think? Love to get some feedback on that if you have any. We've seen a lot of people in the chat here saying they do have one or they're hoping to start. Hopefully these 3 focal points will help you start it or consider starting it better than before.
Yeah. And then how we actually market this too, Johnathan, is a big piece of it. So we know what the program is, but then how do we market it? When we look at this with our customers in our marketing program, there's a few things. And I'm going to answer the question that popped in the chat too of when do we start marketing? Yeah. Now, when we start marketing, it typically takes 4 to 6 weeks to see the effects of marketing. So it's not like this thing where we go, okay, we need more service work today, let's start marketing. And then like tomorrow, all the service work comes in. No, it takes 4 to 6 weeks statistically. So we need to look at when is it that we typically slow down and then back that up 4 to 6 weeks. And that's where we start marketing this. Like we start actively telling people and making sure it's in there because people statistically need the information 7 times before they make a decision to do it. So you don't get to just be like all of them one after another in rapid succession. No, it takes some time. So how do you get in front of people? The things that we love are mass emails. We love sending mass emails, but not spammy ones that actually help, okay? We love direct mail sometimes, so let me talk about that in a second. And then we love utilizing things like text messaging and other tools. So when we look at direct mail specifically, Johnathan, we believe that, and what we see is that we get incredible responses when we do what we call hybrid marketing. So we do a direct mail piece followed up with a phone call or a text message. So we know when they got that direct mail piece, we know that they've actually got it. So then we follow it up with a text message or a phone call. And what we see when we do that, and the text message or phone call is as simple as saying, hey, I just wanted to make sure you got that in the mail. Is there a time you want me to schedule your unit to come in? That's it. Like that's the level of complex that we're looking at with that. And what we see is that most of the time we get 20 to 30% of a response when we do a hybrid campaign, postcard plus follow-up. And so that's been a big piece of it. Any other thoughts, Johnathan, before we move to the next piece of our conversation?
Only a quick comment for anyone who doesn't know where to get started with a couple of those media we just talked about, texting or emailing. There's an interesting solution out there called MailChimp. Yeah. And it's owned now by the makers of QuickBooks. It's a big mainstream platform. Consider checking out MailChimp if you want to send mass emails easily. And then our friends over at Connect, K-E-N-E-C-T, have a great mass text program for dealerships. So Connect, MailChimp, couple good resources if you want to get started.
Excellent.
Back to you, Sarah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next section, our sales section. Okay, this is the next group that we want to talk about. So we talked about our parts, we talked about service, and now let's talk about what we can do in sales to make sure that we are being in front of our customers right now. The thing that I need you to do in the off season to set yourself up for success in the upcoming season is re-engage your past customers. That's it. Like, I need you to reach back out to them and let them know that you are still alive. And what we typically see, though, Johnathan, is that when we start getting into the slower time of the year, our sales people, God bless their souls, they say, well, nobody's coming in. I don't know what to do. Okay, Most of the dealerships we work with have bought the premium phone plan, Johnathan. They make calls that come in and they can make calls out. It's wild. Okay, it's the wild phone plan. So I want your people to start using the phone plan. And so when we look at this, the way that we find out when a customer is ready to re-engage with you is we look at something that we call the customer lifetime. Now, depending on your industry, this is going to be a little bit different for each person and each dealership. But what we see is there's 3 different factors that go into understanding your customer's life cycle. The first one is, have they paid off their unit? Okay, if they financed the unit, did they pay it off? Once they've paid that off and they don't have a payment anymore, we got like ching ching, like the green light is flashing a little bit, Johnathan. We're like, okay, it's time to have a conversation because they don't have that payment anymore. Number 2, and this is a little bit different by industry, but the warranty on their unit has expired or is getting close to expiring. So in tractors, that's like 7 to 10 years. In RV, Johnathan, I think that's like 30 seconds, but like, I mean, to each their own. Okay, to each their own. Now, when we look at RV, I would say that the life cycle of that customer is going to be a little bit longer for us. And then the third thing is that the Joneses have something new. All right, there's a new shiny, sexy tractor or RV or boat or whatever it is out there that their neighbor has and they want to look at it. Now, does this mean that when these 3 things happen, every single person's going to be like, I'm selling my unit and I'm buying something new? No. But it simply tells us that they are prime candidate to re-engage. And you can do that through your business management software. Now, Johnathan, I know that you're seeing a lot right now in terms of trade-ins and equity mining and understanding some of that. So why don't you talk about how that factors into re-engaging our past customers?
Yeah, there's a big area of opportunity, Sarah, in just mining your own database. And there's a term out there called equity mining. And this applies more to some of our industries than others. It's something you would see in RV or automotive more than you would see in equipment. And the idea is if you analyze, you can do it manually, or there are software tools such as in our industry, CRM, DP360 CRM has an equity mining tool. I'd check it out. What equity mining is, analyzing people's payments and the equity that's grown in their unit and their vehicle, and being able to message them saying, hey, guess what? For $15 more a month, you can trade into a brand new version of what you have.
Yeah.
There's this sort of messaging that allows us to find people who would likely want to make a change if only they knew the numbers. Tell them the numbers. Yeah. Let them know they can make the change. In short, Sarah, that there's a key opportunity there. You can do that. You can go and pull a list. Just do it kind of the rough way. Go into your business management software and look at all the people who bought, when the warranty was going to be fresh. Look at who was going to buy 6 years ago or whatever the number is, and reach out to them proactively. Or you can use a tool or even make your own spreadsheet about what would the approximate value of people's units be. If you have updated mileage or hours, that's obviously going to help. Reaching out is going to be critical, and you want to have 4 elements when you reach out. You want to say something to the effect of, we want your unit. And this could be in an email, a tasteful email. That's usually how you're going to do a lot of it. Or it could be in a phone call. As Sarah said, most phones nowadays are 2-way.
It's so weird, Johnathan. It's wild.
a lot of teams don't know this, though. When it comes to the elements, it's number 1, we want it. So I'm being pursued. Number 2, it's a reason why we want it. We're finding that this particular model is in high demand, or they stopped making it, or you want to give a real justification. Again, the more real, the better. Number 3, you want this element in your communication. Because of the reason we want it, it may be worth more than expected, or we would be interested in purchasing it from you directly. If you can't honestly say that, obviously don't. But if you can't honestly say it, put it in there. And then number 4 is a simple and easy next step, or in marketing terms, call to action, to invite the customer to make a quick call, go to a quick place to learn what it's worth. So at the high level, all you need is a message saying we want it, here's why we want it, as a result, probably worth more than you think, pique their curiosity, here's the next step we want to take you. And whether you go all out and you go into your CRM and you pull an official report, or whether you just go into your software and do it manually, you'd be amazed in the slow season how many people's interests have shifted, how many people might need free cash, and how many conversations it starts.
Yeah.
Back to you, Sarah.
I think that's fantastic, Johnathan. And I think it's something that a lot of dealerships are not utilizing in order to do that. But I love how you've walked through what that looks like and how you do that specifically. So when we look at this again, there are a few other things that we require sales teams that we work with to do. And it happens whether you're in the midst of season or you're not. But one of them is we require any salesperson that we're working with inside of a dealership to do 20 touches a day. Okay. We need them to touch 20 people every single day. Now, that could be a phone call, a text message, a smoke signal, a carrier pigeon, the van of people who are running in to use the bathroom. I don't care how you're touching these people, but we need to be in contact with 20 people every single day. Okay. When we do that, that is like the base. Like that is our very minimum in order to set people up for success. So when we're looking at the off season specifically and how you create momentum right now, it's about doing that. Now, again, when we start working with dealers inside of our marketing program, one of the very first things that we do with them to jumpstart this for their sales department is something we call 30 days of deals. And we do this through email. So we find a list of all of their customers. We help them clean it up, which is sometimes the scariest part is like, you're like, I know I have the list, but I don't think it's any good. It's okay. Like we can help you clean it up. So you clean up the list and we say, we're going to look at anything that is either interest accruing or that you have paid off with cash that's sitting on your lot right now. And let's find out how we can move this. So we start by that, by really putting a really good bait on the fishing pole to get those people inside the dealership, because then we can create the momentum. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do this to re-engage past customers, whether it's emails, whether it's looking at their equity inside of their units right now, messaging, like all of these different pieces. But it's all about activity. You will not make sales if there is not activity attached to it. It like doesn't happen. And so we've got to make sure that we have the base, minimum 20 touches every single day for our sales team, per person for our sales team. That's the base. Then we can sit here and say, now we need you to re-engage past customers. That's how we do it. Now, and Johnathan, as you guys look at this from a terms of a business management software, yeah. I mean, this has to be a big piece of your puzzle too.
It is, because the goal in the Blackpurl platform is to make getting day-to-day tasks done as easily as possible. We want to make it as easy as possible for people to get day-to-day tasks done. And so one of these, if you want to look in your sales history, it's effortless. It takes a few seconds. If you want to pull a list and export it to Excel to go put to MailChimp, easy. It takes you 2 minutes. And so I would say there might be some people on this call who don't even have a proper business management software. You want to get one. There in the future. Just one stat that I'll probably mention later, but according to McKinsey, 71% of people expect personalized experiences from businesses. They expect personalized communications. And if you're not tracking your history, if you're not tracking your sales data, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
So it's an immediate thing, and you're building a database for the future to make sure you can continue to beat your competition.
I love it. I love it. Some good friendly competition, obviously, but let's take them down. Yeah. Let's take them down.
Friendly.
So
Lead them friendly with a smile.
So good. We'll take them down with a smile on our face. We love that. Okay. All right. So we've talked about parts. We've talked about service. We've talked about sales. Now let's talk about what you can do inside of your dealership in marketing to set yourself up for success as we're going through this next season. Now, when we think about marketing, what I typically say the word marketing, there's like chills that go up and down the spines of dealership owners and managers all across the country. They're like, no, I'm not really interested in that stuff. Or there's like this space, Johnathan, where they're reactive marketers. Okay. Now, there's two different kinds. We've got our proactive marketers and we've got our reactive marketers. Our proactive marketers is a dealership that says, I'm going to think 4 to 6 weeks out, or even more in a dream world, of what's actually getting ready to happen and when I need my sales to come in. That's a proactive marketer. My reactive marketers go, oh crap, I need to move units today because interest is coming due. Okay, that's my reactive one. Oh crap, I need to move units because this. I need to have my service department filled up because the off-season surprised me yet again. Okay, so I want you, listen, we're all friends here. Is your dealership more of a proactive marketing dealership or a reactive marketing dealership? We are not going to judge. We're going to air this out. You can go to therapy about this later, okay? Proactive or reactive when it comes to your dealership's marketing? I want to know in the chat. See if anybody's brave enough to share in the chat here. Okay. Oh, Jimmy's proactive. All right. Let's see.
Bob
Look
Rickard.
at that. Let's go.
Paula.
A non-active. All right.
Hey, we got a reactive or non-existent.
Hey,
lots of opportunity. That's great.
Oh, all right. So when we look at what you can do, though, to really set your marketing up for success, here's what I'm going to say. I want you to lock in what we would call a marketing plan-ish. An ish, okay? This is not like a full marketing plan, but it's a marketing plan-ish. You know why I call it a marketing plan-ish, Johnathan? It's because that inside of a dealership, if you do a full marketing plan for the next year and you're like, this is the beautiful piece of work that I have to present to the world, it's going to change because that's the nature of dealerships. Your manufacturer is going to put out a new program that you don't know about because they do that like 3 days after the start of every month when it starts at the beginning of the month. At least that's what I see. Okay. Or we see that when it comes to marketing, we have, maybe it's for sales and it looks really good, but we have to have a marketing plan-ish when we have parts, service, and sales. Every single department needs their own marketing plan-ish. And so when we're working with dealers, we say we want to look, number one, at one thing for each month that we want to focus on. We are not focusing on 762 different things every single month. We have one focus when it comes to our promotion that we're doing. So maybe it's like, hey, we're doing 30 days of deals right now for sales. Like that's what we're doing for sales. That's the one product or big focus that we have. In parts, you're going to pick a part that you're going to focus on to sell more of. So maybe you say, hey, we're going to sell oil and oil filters. And every single customer who comes in today is going to be asked, or this month is, hey, do you need oil and oil filters? Okay, maybe that's what it is. And then when we look at service, we love to do what we call warranty inspection. So we focus on one specific make and model that we have, and anybody who's coming up on their warranty, we let them know that when they have a basic maintenance, we do a free warranty inspection. So we've got these three different types, but we have to be flexible with them. But I always encourage the dealers we work with to look at this in 6-month increments because that gives us the ability to be flexible as we go through it. But Johnathan, one of the other big pieces of this, and I think something that we see constantly, is how do we approach social media specifically? So what have you seen that's worked well when it comes to social?
Oh man, the key with social is just to do it, first of all. So people, they think they've got to have the perfect lighting setup, the perfect backdrop, the perfect camera. No, social media success comes from authenticity.
Yeah.
You know, there's some studies that have been done, some experiments that people have done, maybe less formal than a study, and it shows that people respond to authenticity the strongest, even above other positive emotions. And so the key thing is, maybe it's you, maybe it's someone in your dealership. If you just go out, you start documenting, you start making comments, you know, nothing too controversial, but something funny and modern and relevant, and do it in front of the product. Tie it into the product, do the trends where, you know, there's one trend where there's a really surprising video, someone sliding across the screen and then the dealership cuts in, sliding across the screen and then they pop up with a message. That's the sort of thing. So you want it to be, number one, just start. Number two, be authentic. Number three, change with the times, right? You got to keep up with the times. And then number four is consistency. There's a trailer dealership, Spencer Trailers, in Spencer, Indiana, and I followed them. I've been friends with them for many years. And they have one particular member of their team who just likes taking photos, likes posting, and they've built up through consistency. I've been following them for the past couple of years online. They get so many interactions every time they post just because they've built it up with authenticity, uniqueness, and just doing it over time. Sara, that's the number one thing, is just to get started, demystify it, get rid of the fear, just start.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think social is one of those things that's constantly evolving. And I think as it evolves, everybody goes, ooh, what are we going to do with this? But when we look at social media, Johnathan, we view it as word of mouth marketing now. That is where word of mouth marketing is. People want to go, do you work with people I like? And grandparents want to show their kids in front of the pictures of their kids. Like that's grandkids too. It's like that's what they want to do. So when we look at it as like word of mouth marketing, it changes things. So one of the things that we do is we set up and this is so basic. You can do this. Like you can do this starting today and it costs like $3, okay? We set up a separate texting line for every dealership that we're working with, where throughout the week, actually we do it on a monthly basis, but we have all of their employees texting in candid pictures and videos of it, and we put a bounty on it. So we say, whoever sends us the most pictures and videos, and it has to be high quality, they have to have their name attached to it, and they have to have a sentence description with it, but whoever sends us the most wins a $50 gift card to insert wherever we're doing $50 gift cards. And what happens is everybody gets really excited and gets on board, and now you have this incredible amount of social media content that you get to post. It's what we do with all of our dealers we're working with. So when we look at it, I think that the thing is that authenticity and what's really happening inside of the dealership will win every time over canned social media things. When all you do is post canned social media content, God bless our manufacturers who are working hard to give you options. But if all we're doing is posting that, you know what happens, Johnathan? You go somewhere that we call Facebook jail. Okay, that's what we call it. We call it Facebook jail because you're not getting engagement and they push you all the way down to the bottom so you don't pop up on anybody's feed. And the only way to get out of Facebook jail is to pay bail, which is you're paying for ads and they become really, really expensive to hit all of these people. But if you're not utilizing authentic content in this, Johnathan, you are going to go to Facebook jail and you're going to go real fast. So we have to be sure we're being authentic with it. All right, let's talk about the last thing that we should be doing, and we want to leave some time for questions. So if you have questions, let's go ahead and pop those through for us as well. All right, so the last thing that we have to look at when we're looking at this from a space of like, okay, we've got service, we've got parts, we've got sales, we've got marketing, we have our one thing we could do in each of them. When it comes to management or your team as a whole, the most important thing you can do is to make sure your team is aligned on where you're going. Now, if you've been in any of my programs before, you've heard me probably talk about the 3 key things that every owner and manager is truly responsible for inside of the dealership. There's 3. All right. The first is that you have to be able to show your people where you are going. Okay, where are you trying to go is the first question that any leader has to answer. Where are you trying to go? The second question that any leader has to be able to answer is, how are you going to get there? And then the third is, are you developing the people to take you there? Okay, where are you trying to go? How are you going to get there? And are you developing the people to take you there? Now, I don't know about you, but I travel a lot. Almost every single week I am on the road at some level, and man, what a glamorous life that is. No, it's not, but that's okay. So I fly a lot. And if I were to walk into the airport, walk down the jet bridge and see the captain there of the flight, and he said, Sara, so glad to have you on the flight. Okay, in this world, he knows my name. I don't know. He doesn't really know my name. But he said, Sara, I'm so glad to see you on this flight. This is my first commercial flight, Sara. I'm so excited for it. Awesome. And he said, I know that we are going to go to Springfield, but I'm not sure if we're going to Springfield, Illinois or Springfield, Missouri. Like, that's not that big of a deal, right? And unfortunately, we don't have enough flight attendants because staffing issues. Am I right? Like, okay. I would not get on that flight. Like, I wouldn't get on the flight, Johnathan, because I'd be like, oh my gosh, like, take me now. Like, I'm leaving this. But what happens inside of dealerships every single day, and specifically in the off season, is you are like, where are we going? I don't know, Springfield somewhere, one of them. We're going that direction. We don't know where we're going. You don't have a plan on how you're going to actually get there. And then you're like, well, my people suck, and I don't know what I'm going to do to change it, but you just get who you get. No, you don't. So your job as an owner or a manager, as you're going through this, is figuring out where the heck you're trying to go, how you're going to get there, and develop the people. But Johnathan, a piece of this is that it's hard to change. Like, it's hard to get your team on board to change in the midst of this.
Oh, and we've talked about a lot of change. We've had people say, hey, I want to get more proactive. There's probably either themselves or some other people involved in it. And, we've heard some talk about change management, as a term. But really, there's three key reasons, Sarah, that the experts say why specific people on the teams don't want to change. And that's control, competence, and compensation, the three C's behind change resistance.
Sure.
And, to kind of break them down a little bit with control, people fear losing autonomy. Autonomy is freedom, and that's a value in this country. And it often means new rules or processes. And it can feel like, they're flying, they're being pushed, and they don't have control of their own destiny anymore. So how you can deal with this as you're asking your team to get on board with changes you're introducing is to give choice wherever possible, is to explain the why and to involve them so that they might not be deciding what port they're going to, but they're deciding sort of how we get there and how we navigate. And so that's control. When it comes to competence, change threatens our self-image sometimes. A veteran might not want to look bad in a new system. A high performer might not want to risk failure. There's often some insecurities there. So you can align your team by investing in training and coaching, which helps everyone feel confident. You can also align by normalizing learning curves. Like everyone has to learn. Leaders if you're on this call, you're probably a leader. So show yourself learning and be open about it's not an overnight process. And then celebrate progress instead of perfection. So if you address the first two, control and competence, last one is obviously getting paid. A lot of us work because we need money. And so the idea that their compensation might change even a little bit, even just something like fewer opportunities to shine, can get people pushing back. And so you can tie change to personal wins, like right when you introduce it, purposely have a sheet that shows how it positively affects everyone's day. That's just my idea. And then, you can highlight the change as future-proofing, basically protecting their compensation long-term. And when you bring in folks proactively like this, a word that Sara was using earlier about marketing, when we proactively do change, instead of just saying, guess what, guys, there's a change today. Don't like it, too bad. Let people know ahead of time, address each of the three C's, and you're going to have so much faster progress, and it'll be so much more fun.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Yeah, I love it. And Johnathan, what we always see is that when it comes to change, and this is what you've just covered, but every single person in the midst of change has one question and one question only. And the only question people have in the midst of change is, how does this affect me? Like, that's it. That's the only question they have in the midst of change. And I've seen it on big scales. I've seen it on small scales. Like, that's the only question they have initially. Now, after the fact, they may have more questions. But when you roll out something new, all they want to know is, how does this affect me? So we have to have that understanding when we're looking at this as well. All right, guys, I'm going to let you guys keep popping some questions in, but it looks like we do have a few. All right, Johnathan, so the first one is all about, about the change still. All right, it's about the change. So when we look at implementing change, even with like a business management software, how do I start? Okay, and that's a good question too, because when we do business management software transitions, they're not always fun and it's hard to get people on board. So how do you suggest people start when it comes to making a change for business management software?
Yeah, it's like deciding, Sara, what city do I move to? Well, I got to figure out what I want. Yeah. And so that is the easiest starting point, is to limit yourself. Say, I have 3 goals that I want to accomplish with this software change, whether it be a business management software, or CRM, or website, or anything. Yeah. What are my 3 goals? Do I want it to be easier for my team? Do I want to start using tablets out on the service? Like, whatever my thing is, list out my top 3 goals. And instead of just going to my friends, this is how it's often done, is I go to my friends, what software do you use? Do you like it or do you hate it? What software do you use? Go to your friends and say, these are my 3 goals. Have you encountered, does your software do this? How does it rank? And then just go online. And I would personally use like a ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, AI, and say, I'm looking for dealership software that does these 3 things. So it then becomes centered around what you're trying to accomplish. And you do that quick search with the virtual person online, and then you do the quick search with a few friends in real life, and you'll feel a lot more secure. Then, whatever software it is, you want to go to that company and ask for a demo. And you don't want it to be a sales pitch. You want to make sure you have the opportunity to ask questions. Ask all your questions, list them all out, rate each one of your solutions, in relation to those 3 goals, and you probably have a clear winner.
Yeah, that is great advice, Johnathan. I think when you can create that momentum, I think that's a great place to start. Okay, another one came through about marketing, and it says, we have tried a lot of different things with marketing in the past, and I'm not sure if any of it is actually working. How do I know that the money I'm spending on co-op is being spent well? Okay. Woo! There is a loaded question. Okay, let's break this down. Yes, we've tried things in the past and we're not sure if they've not worked. We don't ever want to throw money against the wall and hope that it sticks. Okay, like that is not how we market. The first thing we want to do is, number one, understand who we're actually trying to be in front of, who are our customers, okay, and where our customers are at. When we know who our customers are and then where they are at, it gives us a good place to start when it comes to marketing. So that's where we have to start. Everything else is around it, and you can use the same principles around it, but if you don't know who your customers are or where they're at, you're going to be throwing money against the wall and just hoping that it sticks. Co-op. Okay, this could be a whole webinar in and of itself. Here is the thing with co-op. If you would not spend the money on your own, don't spend it just simply because co-op is giving you an option to spend it, okay? Because even if they give you 50% of the co-op, they say, hey, you're gonna do it, it's $100, but you put in 50, I put in 50. If it's not part of what you were trying to do in the first place, you're wasting your money. Now, if it is, go for it. Make it happen. Go for it. But don't sit here and spend co-op money if you weren't going to spend it on its own. So again, this could be an entire webinar in and of itself on how to handle co-op money. All right, let's see. We have a few more popping in. All right, Tim, I'm gonna answer, we're gonna go through yours. How do you implement change when we are creatures of habit? Such a good question. All right, Johnathan, I'll let you pop on this one for a second.
Yeah, I have a really short intro answer. There's a book called Willpower. I forget the authors now. The thesis of the book is, we, for practical purposes, have a finite amount of willpower every day. So the advice of the authors at the end of the book, try to change one thing at a time. Don't try to go on a diet and quit smoking at the same time, they say. So that's first piece of advice is pick an entry point. Napoleon was known for breaking through enemy lines with an arrow formation. You got to break through that habit with one easy to start point. Fix that, move to the next one. That's my take. What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think we start one thing at a time. I think that's where it is. And you have to figure out where it is and what's causing you the most pain. So inside of a dealership, when it comes to habits, we typically start in the service department because that's where you're normally bleeding the most cash. We always look at what does it cost to lose 1 hour a day in the service department. And for most dealerships, it's about $22,000 a year per technician is where it comes to. $22,000 if your labor rate is $100 an hour per technician, and your labor rate should be way more than $100 an hour. But per technician, if you lose simply 1 hour a day. So when we start working with dealerships on parts and service, we start in service and we say, let's just track and make sure that we are tracking all of the time, or it's our inventory in the service department. And so start there, because when we start with one little thing, then we have the ability to say, what's that next thing? What's that next thing? And then move through that. So, okay, we have Roger asked, how do you maximize inventory or manage inventory utilizing a min-max system while still preparing for a stocking order? Okay, great question, Roger. There's a few different pieces of this question as well. So when we're looking at using min-max or systems, this is a key piece of our parts management and how we need to be doing things. So we typically look at when we're going to phase something in, we get 3 orders in 90 days or 3 requests in 90 days, we're going to phase it in. And then if we have less than 3 requests in 90 days, we're typically going to phase that part out. So that's our phase in, phase out. But when we're looking at this in terms of preparing for stocking orders, we have to have the strategy behind it to say, where are we at right now? What kind of demand are we going to have? And again, some of this comes back to the history that you have of it. And then if I needed it immediately, if I ran into something I needed immediately, could I get it? And if the answer is no, then we need to have a little bit of a different strategy. But Roger, I would love to have more of a conversation with you and understand your specific situation, because some of these can be a little tricky. All right, I did see a few other bigger questions pop through too, specifically around parts. Lloyd asked one about obsolete parts. Here's the deal, Lloyd. I'm going to reach out to you too, and we'll have a little more conversation on the situation you are in specifically. So if you have other questions, I mean, we have our information on the screen. I have my email. It's just Sara@bobclements.com. And then we've got Johnathan. This is Johnathan Aguero at blackpurl.com. We are here to support you. We're here to cheer you on. And we know that over the next few months, you can set yourselves up for success over the next season.